As I had said, in my last video, I didn't really show, but I just simple painted. I got this gloss berry pink, and I just sprayed the paint. I did spray primer. I just used regular flat white primer for plastics, metal, wood, blah blah, and for the elevons, and then sprayed them pink. I did spray, I think, roughly 2 coats, a really light coat on the foam, and then a heavier coat. But again, as I said in the last video, I didn't spray too much because I don't want to add a lot of weight to it, and paint does add weight. So I put the elevons on. This is all in part 4, or you may have seen in part 4. So that way when I do whatever, I still am thinking I'm going to do splatters, that will keep the color scheme throughout the elevons and the plane. I'm going to go ahead and start splattering some paint on here. Like I said, I got the pink base. After some trials, let me grab the trial piece real quick. After some trials and then looking through my cabinets, I found I had some blue also. I think I'm going to use that, try and go for this yellow, blue, and purple. So, test piece. I got the yellow, blue, purple. These are all Rust-Oleum. I tend to just get Rust-Oleum paint usually. But I'm going to do the purple, the darkest first. I'm not going to do as much purple because the purple is really dark. It's just straight, it's gloss purple. It's not even a fancy golden sunset type name. But just going to try and do a little bit of the purple to give it some dark spots. And then I'm going to do blue and then yellow. So what I'm planning to do, I have these little cups. I just cut off some solo cups. Shaker cake. Now I'm just going to spray it right into the corner of the cup to get myself some. So there, I've got more than enough. I took these barbecue skewers, and on one end I took my blade to it. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I kind of chopped it up. I'm hoping that'll soak in some of the paint. And I'm just gonna flick. So next we're gonna do some blue. The blue is a slightly different, you're probably not going to see it, but it's a little thinner. This is the enamel, gloss protective enamel. I wouldn't probably spray this straight onto the foam, but because I already have a layer of paint down from the other stuff, the other pink, I'm not worried about it as much. I'm not too worried about the front here. There's like none there, but there's gonna get a cutout there for the camera anyway, so. Seems to be a pretty good spread. Now the one thing I am gonna do is I'm gonna let these purple and the blue dry for, I'll give it like 15 minutes. So that way the yellow has a better chance to not blend out. So, ready to. So now we're going to do the yellow. I think what I'm going to try is use this paintbrush to get a little bigger splashes. This paintbrush is definitely working nice, except that it's soaking up a lot more. Okay, I'm really happy with that. So now I'm going to give this all a good probably 30 minutes to dry before I flip it over and do the other side. Got the paint all done. I didn't show it. I pushed these servos in. I haven't actually glued them in yet. And then I pushed the wires in and kind of hid my antennas again. Back in the cracks, screwed the motor on. Need to glue this down, glue this VTX down, need to glue the receiver down, and then I need to actually glue the camera in. The one thing I didn't do on camera because it's not really worth it is just cutting in, slice the nose chunk out for the camera mount. This is a 3D printed one. I have not loaded this on. I grabbed somebody else's. I'll put the link in Thingiverse link in the description, but I modified it. I still need to upload that, and I'll link it definitely as a remix. You can see it doesn't really line up, but I don't need it to necessarily. I think it kind of sticks out. It makes it, the yellow, I sprayed it yellow, makes it stick out a little bit. And the biggest thing is that it goes out pretty much just past the lens, or at least even with the lens. So I'm trying to hope it protects it a little bit. So that, like I said, I just cut a chunk out and I Gorilla Glued that in. And then tuck the wire in, and it's all pretty neat. So what the last thing I want to show for, I'll probably do two more things in this video. I'm going to do the control horns, and this is one. They come with it, and Sean provides these little linkage stoppers. They do require drilling out a hole a little bit larger. I think it's about a 1/16 inch. I have a whole bunch of little tiny drill bits, and I just found the one that was the right size to just go slightly larger, drill it out, and then this basically just goes, a little silver guy goes through, and then this black piece gets pinched on there, which is not the easiest thing to do, which is good because you don't want it to come off. I think it's a little rubber grommet, so you probably could get it off if you need to. I basically just squeezed it on to get it started, and then just pinch to the side of it so the post goes through and tightens down. So that's on there, but it still does allow for a little bit of pivoting. So when it goes, it's not like this is moving that much that it's going to pivot a ton anyways. So those will go in like that. So then, because they have these posts, all I'm going to do is about the same size drill bit. I'm going to drill 2 holes for each one and stick them in there, and probably use CA since it's going into the balsa and they're plastic. They also have a kind of a low rib to it, so they'll hold it as is. But so then to do that, I took the 2 wires Sean provides. I don't know if you'll be able to even see these on camera. And I have some Z-bend pliers. And I just put a Z in each one. So they're going to go up to there. And I'm going to go through the outside in. And I'm doing this through the 3rd hole, I believe. Sorry, on these Emax, there's 3 holes. I'm going to use the center hole for now. We'll see how that works. And I'm doing it from the outside so that it already gets it a little bit more. I don't want to have it right on this over here. I want to have it out a little bit so it's got some more meat in the balsa. And then I also am using this linkage stopper offset to try and help do that. Set this out even a little tiny bit more. So these little tiny screws are fiddly, so just try and get it so it's just started a thread or two, not going down to block the hole the wire will pass through. And I'm going to slide it on here just so we can get an idea of where it needs to go. So I want to try and keep this wire straight. One thing, you have all this slop up here. And this one, what I will do is put a drop of CA. What I found, I think I actually learned from flight test, is if you put some CA there, it'll fill the plastic hole. But then as soon as you move it, the wire will just break free from the CA. And you'll have a perfectly sized for your wire hole in your control horn. So that way it gets rid of any slop you had there. The other thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to power it up and make sure that these are centered, because I've moved them a little bit while I was messing with it. Okay, back. Just power the radio up so that way it's linked when we bind up. And we're going to power up. Just move the Servos so that way I know they go back to where they're. Okay, so the nice thing is, obviously you're not going to be able to see it on here, but there's two little yellow dots that this is lining up nicely with. I do want to try and get the shaft on this linkage stopper right over the hinge line. So I'm looking at it again, actually the other one, the forward hole will go there. Where those two dots are, that should be perfect. I'm going to commit and drill this. The other one is right next to this other yellow dot. Being very careful because my finger is underneath there. Okay, so don't have it tightened up. We're gonna have to pull this out because I didn't put any glue in there, but should be plenty tight enough that there. Way more than the throw that I'm gonna need, so I'll have to tone that down. But that one's going. Okay, I was able to get it straightened out a little bit, so we're gonna call that one good. And move over to this one. I'm gonna drill this one first, and then I'll go back and CA both of them in. Okay, so those are both pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off. I'm gonna leave a little bit of wire so I can make adjustments. Use good heavy, don't cut wire with diagonal wire cutters. Get some heavier wire cutters so you don't damage them, because you will just dent and mess up your good pliers. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and CA these in. Now the one thing I didn't do when I did centering these, and I did not set my reflex yet. That's the good thing about these linkage stoppers, is I can adjust the trim on them to get them to where they're both at the right reflex and ready to go. So I'm not worried about that yet, just in case anyone watching was wondering. This one actually came off the wire, so. Okay, so that's I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to let that CA dry on the control horns and on the servo arms also. Like I said, I'm trying to close up that gap to tighten those up a little bit. So I'll give those a little bit. When I come back, we'll go ahead and we'll either E6000 or Goop, our VTX receiver and servos down. And I got to figure out what I want to do for the camera. Probably do E6000 or Goop for that also, and also for the ESC. So we're getting there. Just so that finishing up part 5, I realized that I didn't actually film. I glued the servos in, glued the receiver, glued the VTX. I also added a little glue to the antenna to help it, and I glued obviously the other servo. I also glued the nose piece in. I used E6000 on these, and I used white Gorilla Glue to glue the 3D printed piece in, and then a little dab of E6000 on the back of the camera to hold it in there. And then I also glued the wingtips on. So that's all good to go. As you can see, as we were talking about in the last one, control horns are on there. Now you may notice that there's also a motor laying on the bench. I did actually try to do a maiden with this, and I did not have the ESC glued down, and I'll try to put the video up here in the corner. It was just a very quick flight, bumped the front of the house, and the problem was that when it hit the house, because I didn't have this glued down, it flung forward a little bit and pulled on the wires. I don't know if it will pick this up, but two or so of the wires that are down inside from the windings definitely are broken. When I first picked the plane up, it had some timing issues and it was kind of skipping along, and then as I messed with it, it just stopped working altogether. So I'm going to wrap up this video 5 at that point where I'm down a motor. I've actually ordered 2 motors for replacement, so I've got the one in a backup, and hopefully I'll have them in the next couple days and I can get the maiden video done, but it's going to be on hold. So that wraps up the build portion of this. I set up the 3/16 per Sean's notes, 3/16 of reflex and only 3/16 up and 3/16 down of travel in the elevons. So it's kind of self-evident. If you need help with that, look up other videos on setting up throw. It's going to depend on your radio and all that. I just lowered the weights really low in my Taranis down to about 15 on the mixer, and yeah, that got that. So there isn't really much else for setup on this. It's pretty simple as far as it's just a receiver and servos, so no flight control or anything like that. So this, like I said, hope you appreciated the build portion of this. I am going to have the main video at least, and then I'll definitely be posting any content of flying this guy around the yard and stuff like that. I will plan on trying to maiden it the second time, or the good maiden out somewhere where I've got a little more room so I can recover when it if it has any kind of rolls or anything like that. So again, if you like this series, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I hope somebody's learned something from this. I've learned a few things along the process of building this one, so hopefully if you've actually been watching through, I appreciate it, and I hope you learned something. Have a great day.